had a speech impediment when I was very young, and I had to talk into a reel. The reel was from my class and listen back to it. I just the experience. It's just this huge delay.
Okay, I think we are ready. We're now live streaming on our YouTube page as well, John. So if you could introduce Lama Losang for us tonight, that'd be
Hello,
wonderful.
Lama La.
Good evening.
This is Lama Losang. He's the spiritual director here at KTC JAX, as well as the spiritual director for all the centers of the Kamikaze here in Florida. Lama Losang has his PhD in psychology, as well as the equivalency of a master's degree from Cambridge University in Asian Medicine Studies. He's an acupuncturist and herbalist. He completed the 3.5-year retreat at Kwame Retreat Center. And on the second Tuesday of the month, he comes and answers our questions for us. And he likes your questions, so no crickets in the background. And thank you, Lama. It's good to see you.
Nice to be here with all of you as well. My pleasure. So I did, well, actually, let's begin with the first refuge and raising bodhicitta, which is the way we really like to begin, so that we bring our mind to the Dharma with the aspiration that we are listening and learning for not only our own benefit, but for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Right.
And we'll do that by chanting the refuge and bodhicitta prayers. And we'll do that in the twice in the English and once in the Tibetan. I'll do the English, and then we'll chant it in the Tibetan as well. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and the Noble Sangha. For the merit of accomplishing the 6 perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and the Noble Sangha. Through the merit of accomplishing the 6 perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Sanjay Chudam Soki Choknam Ya Jangju Padu Dakni Chapsu Dagi Jinso Jipe Sonamki Drola Penchir Sanjay Druparsho. And a brief prayer. Polin Sawe Lama Rinpoche, Dakichiwo Pede Jitla, Kanchempo Gone Jasonte, Kusantuji Nudup Salduso. All right, good evening and welcome. It is the second Tuesday of the month, so here we are. I was informed of a couple of questions, but we are not limited to those. But those happen to be from the reading that you were doing, and that is in regard to what is called the 2 veils and the 3 vajras. So we can begin with that. So the veil of the 2 veils are the afflictive emotions and the cognitive obscurations. And this was around the practice of our Yidam practice. I think you were doing Tara. This came from your reading in the Tara book. Is that right?
Yes, Lama. And
Yeah.
the Tara, the Feminine Divine by Bokar Rinpoche.
Great. So to begin, the afflictive emotions, this includes, the kleshas. We talk about the kleshas, and that has to do with grasping and aversion and ignorance and pride and jealousy and those negative emotions that afflict our consciousness, which distort perception and drive samsaric reactivity. So when this veil is active, body, speech, and mind are continuously propelled by dualistic habits. These are habitual patterns, or also called habitual patterns. And instead of resting in luminous awareness, we are absorbed or obscured by our predispositions toward those negative emotions that I just mentioned. And it is removed, those are removed by our ethical discipline, shamatha and vipassana practice, cultivating bodhicitta, and the gradual purification of those reactive patterns, those kleshas, through our practice. So that's the first, afflictive emotions. The second is the veil of cognitive obscurations. And these are more subtle tendencies. These are latent patterns of conceptual proliferation, our monkey mind, the subtle dualistic structuring and residual imprints on our mind stream that prevent the direct, non-conceptual recognition of our Buddha nature. And even when gross kleshas are relatively quiet, these cognitive veils keep experience slightly obscured, fragmented, opaque, so we want to be able to see through those immediately and not be continually obscured by these. So their dissolution depends upon a deep insight into emptiness. That is the main antidote to our cognitive patterns. So this allows us, once we begin to eliminate those cognitive distortions, the direct recognition of our Buddha nature and emptiness, as taught in the higher tantras, such as you've been reading. This is the Vajrayana. We're talking about the Vajrayana. We talk about the Yidam practice. This is the aspect of Vajrayana practice that you've been reading about in the text. So in practice terms, the first veil is what keeps us emotionally out of alignment with our bodhisattva conduct. And the second veil is what keeps our view from fully opening to omniscience and non-dual knowing, direct perception of emptiness. So those are the two. And most Vajrayana sources describe these two broad classes of obscurations. And we'll talk a little bit more about those and how we go about eliminating them. And the three Vajras are body, speech, and mind. And in Vajrayana, the three Vajras are enlightened body, enlightened speech, and enlightened mind of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So when we talk about it like this, this indestructible purity, which is our Buddha nature of form and gesture and action, symbolized by the Vajra. The Vajra is an implement itself, which combines the diamond's indestructibility with the thunderbolt. It's in our practice, we use a Vajra and bell. This is a Vajra or Dorje, And it is considered an implement in Vajrayana practice and is associated with the power, of our Buddha nature. And when we visualize ourselves as the deity, as we do in our Yidam practice, as the deity, we adopt mudras, which is the body's way of expressing our divine nature, or offer our physical conduct for the benefit of beings. And we are training to recognize all bodily activity. Again, this is the Vajra body. We offer our physical conduct for the benefit of beings. And we are training to recognize all bodily activity as the play of awakened form. This is the form body, rather than as a solid, separate me. We have identified ourselves as this person, this ego identity that creates problems for us. So this refers to the Vajra body. And we visualize ourselves as the deity as we do these Yidam practices, as you've been reading. So this is the Vajra. The second of the three Vajras. This is the indestructible purity of sound, mantra. That's what makes Vajrayana different, is the use of mantra recitation and the communication, recitation of the mantra and cultivation of a truthful, compassionate speech are ways of aligning our ordinary language with the speech of the Buddhas. So when we're doing the practice, the Yidam practice that you've been studying, we're talking about the speech, pure Vajra speech. In some practices manuals explicitly describe purifying speech with mantra as part of the three Vajras training. So we say body, and when we say body, again, it has to do with mudras, and you may, when you do the practice, you use particular offerings, and we use our body in the way of mudras to make offerings. And this is how the body is made Vajra-like in that way. And Vajra mind is the third. Vajra of mind. And this is the indestructible purity of awareness. We're doing this practice with our mind, our body, and our speech. So this purity of awareness itself is empty, it's luminous, and cognizant. It is aware. It is what recognizes the emptiness of all phenomena, while simultaneously displaying compassion and skillful means. So meditative resting in the nature of mind and deity yoga are understood in terms of the inseparability of emptiness and our direct methods of realizing this Vajra, this third Vajra of mind. So we have the Vajra of body. We do these practices with our body. The Vajra of speech, which has to do with the skillful means of use of mantra. And the Vajra of mind, which has to do with the purity of awareness when we do our visualization practice. So this purity of awareness itself, which is empty, luminous, and cognizant. And the nature of the mind is this luminous clarity. It's luminous awareness. That's the nature of our mind. And when we do these practices, we see it as such, So we have this compassion and skillful means, and resting in the mind, the nature of the mind, when we do the deity yoga. So from this standpoint, of ultimate practice of the yidam. The three Vajras are not three separate things, but three aspects of a single non-dual reality, like the three facets of one diamond, manifesting as form, Vajra of body, sound, the Vajra of speech, and this knowing or awareness, the Vajra of mind. So we talked about the veils, those two veils, and so we can kind of say how the veils relate to the three Vajras in practice. In the day-to-day Vajrayana training, you can frame your practice or your understanding that the two veils describe what is to be purified, our emotional obscuration and our cognitive obscuration. Those are the two veils. And so those are to be purified. Emotional reactivity and subtle conceptual obscuration. And the three Vajras describe what is revealed, our Buddha mind. That's what is revealed as those veils thin as we do our practice. And you are already have this pure body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. And now we're beginning to recognize it as this practice continues. Those veils become more uprooted. So, for example, when anger arises as part of the veil of afflictive emotions, you may have had the experience of anger. And that is considered a grievous afflictive emotion that really creates a suffering for ourselves. We apply the view and the method to that. That same energy becomes fearless activity of the Vajra body expressed through non-harmful action. And when compulsive internal narration arises in our mind stream, that monkey mind, as part of cognitive obscuration, we meet it with mantra and awareness, so that sound is recognized as Vajra speech when we do the mantra recitation. And this is emptiness. And we see the sound and emptiness rather than as a solid my thoughts. We see it as very ephemeral and passing. And when subtle grasping at subject object, we have that duality in our mind. We rest in the nature of mind so that cognition itself is seen as Vajra mind, clear, non-conceptual, and inseparable from compassion. Before we go further, any particular comment or question about what I just said?
Did you have a question? On the subject of emotional reactivity, it seems that there are situations that we encounter where certain emotions arising feel, even if it might be a negative emotion, it feels like an appropriate reaction. For instance, feeling anger towards an injustice that you see being done to others, someone harming someone else. And so, I think, thinking about like this idea of, the middle way, how do I not ignore the emotion that I'm feeling, because I feel like that's actually destructive. Like having this emotion that arises in you and just keeping it inside and trying to squash it feels like a dangerous thing to do. It feels that there's got to be some sort of better way to take that, almost like what you're saying to me. Sounds like we take these emotions that arise and we are able to transmute them into, you said, fearless activity. You know, can you talk a little bit more about that and how we might do that?
Well, in the example that you said, we this anger arises, and we can call it justifiable. But what we really want to see clearly is that the perpetrator of this, who is doing some harm to someone, is ignorant. They are creating a karma that is their own kleshas that are you're seeing. And what that can elicit is compassion, because that person is suffering, and because they have this klesha, and in actuality, they are creating more negative karma for themselves through that activity of harming someone else with that anger, and ultimately they're harming themselves. So instead of anger, the bodhisattva cultivates compassion. So it's not unusual when we see someone hurting someone else to have this knee-jerk response of anger, but that can equally be a knee-jerk response for compassion, and we have to train in that so that we don't limit our knee-jerk response to just anger in return. That will only create more suffering for ourselves and for others. So a more skillful means is to cultivate compassion for that person who is acting against their Buddha nature and is creating more karma for themselves, and they're going to suffer even more so. So we understand that situation is going to create in the long run intense suffering for them, and that can elicit from you compassion. Now, it doesn't mean that you are okay with that action, but your anger is not helpful to you or to the situation. If you can take that or help the person who is being harmed, that would be great. But understand that that person is, who is the perpetrator, we'll say, is acting out of ignorance. And the bodhisattva sees it as such and wishes to correct that situation. But first, they have to correct their own internal understanding of the nature of that action. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does. It's hard. That's a hard thing.
Yes, that's the work. Of course, it's hard. That's why we call these veils, our negative emotions. And we've been doing it since beginningless time. But our practice is to transmute that into wisdom. So the veil, of our afflictive obscurations, our emotions, is the grasping, is the aversion, is the ignorance, is the pride, the jealousy. Oh, I know better about this. And these drive samsaric behavior and disturb our conduct. Just as the veil of cognitive obscuration, those subtle conceptual structuring and dualistic tendencies that we've been, again, doing, and that's why we call them kleshas or habitual patterns, because this dualistic tendency blocks the direct realization of our Buddha nature. Even, when these gross kleshas have quieted, there is still the flavor of that negative emotion. And that's why there's 10 levels that the bodhisattva travels. And each of those levels for the bodhisattva decreases that clinging and that response of negative emotions. Yes, it is clearly not easy, but that's what we're talking about. This is the practice of a bodhisattva, and that is the essence of the Vajrayana teaching. So there are ways, that we do that. In our Kagyu lineage, it's a graduated path. Yeah. So there's outer preliminaries. You've heard of the Nunro practice. That is one of the things that we do. But there's and again, I once again I come back to the four ordinary preliminaries, the four reminders that we should continue to practice this precious human life, impermanence, suffering of samsara and karma, and these loosen the veil of afflictive emotions by shifting priorities and softening that attachment. And that is followed by the inner preliminary practices, the refuge and prostrations, that reorient the body in particular, and the intentions, and begin to purify both those veils. And the Vajrasattva practice, explicit purification of karmic imprints and emotional obscurations. And the mandala offering that is done cuts the grasping at self and the world, and works on both veils. And Guru Yoga opens the devotion and allows blessings to penetrate our cognitive veil. So those are two of the paths that create the circumstances for us to overcome the veils and to realize the three Vajras. And there's additional practices in our Mahamudra lineage, the 6 yogas of Naropa, which is a path of skillful means that uses the subtle winds and channels and drops. That's another conversation, to burn through both veils in the energetic system, especially our habitual emotional patterns. So again, there's a sequence of practices that we do to diminish and ultimately uproot those those veils that we spoke about. And we do these main paths of the 6 yogas of Naropa, for example, which are the practices that we do in retreat, and the Mahamudra path, which directly reveals the nature of mind, targeting cognitive veil until non-dual awareness is stable. Okay, any question about that?
Namala, with Aaron's question about dealing with when we see someone behaving poorly, you can always just go back to doing Tonglen practice for these people.
Yes, you could definitely. That is definitely a practice that is done, and that is to enhance bodhicitta. So that is the ultimate remedy is bodhicitta. So you must remember the basic definitions, for a Vajra body, the indestructible purity of your form and activity. So we want to make that perfect, symbolized by the Vajra implement. I showed you the Vajra, the tool, the thunderbolt, and by deity yoga's pure appearance. So we see the deity as that indestructible purity of form and activity. And the Vajra speech, the indestructible purity of sound, and the communication expressed by mantra and Dharma teachings, and the truthful, compassionate speech. And the Vajra mind, the indestructible purity of awareness. This is already within you. We just have to realize it. We have to bring it out. And the practices that I just talked about is the way we do that. You're already a Buddha, but you're obscured through the veils. And as we remove the veils, we become nearer or closer to the realization of who we really are. So this makes explicit for students, these three vajras are not fabricated. They are the innate nature of our body, speech, and mind once the veils are thinned and ultimately eliminated.
Lama, we have a question. Can we talk more about the Mahamudra practice? I hear that word often in our studies, but don't quite have a grasp on it.
Mahamudra is the direct experience of the nature of your mind, and that does not come without the preliminary practices. So I said it was a graduated path. We don't go from ignorance to Mahamudra. We have to purify those qualities that have we've been, again, habitual patterns. We have to purify those before we can realize Mahamudra. Mahamudra means the Great Seal, and it is basically the crown jewel of our lineage. And so we have to purify those the body, the speech, and the mind first before we can really even talk about Mahamudra. But that is the goal, is to have the direct experience of the nature of our mind and be able to rest in that Buddha nature, the pure awareness of the nature of our mind without distraction. And ultimately, we experience the loving kindness and compassion of the Buddha. That is the natural outcome of that purification. That's what's underneath our obscuration.
So Lama,
Mahamudra instruction, ordinary mind is the path, and we do that through the yidam practice. So again, just the deity yoga and sadhana transforms ordinary body into the Vajra body through visualization and posture and mudra. It transforms ordinary speech into Vajra speech through mantra and prayers. And it transforms our ordinary mind into Vajra mind through one-pointed focus and recognition of appearance and emptiness. And the Mahamudra instruction is our ordinary mind. It is we call it ordinary mind because it is the nature of our mind. And when we look directly, what we call mind is already a Vajra mind, but it's empty and lucid. That's the nature of the mind, lucid awareness. And as realization deepens, all actions are seen as the play of our Vajra body and all sounds as Vajra speech. So a simple phrase might be, as we purify the two veils, we don't become something new. We simply uncover the three Vajras that were there from the beginning. And that leads to what we call Mahamudra.
and Lama, would you seek guidance through your teacher to begin these practices? Especially when we talk about Mahamudra meditation, is that something you work with your guru to develop?
Absolutely. Yes, you have to have a teacher. You have to have guidance, pointing out instructions, to the nature of the mind. And you have to have the direct experience through practice. So we rest more and more as we do the yidam practices and we do the nundro. We complete it with the last of the four extraordinary practices of nundro with the guru yoga, where we link our mind with the guru and experience it. We have the same mind as the guru. We have the same mind as the deity. So that as we perfect that more and more and rest in that more and more, our own Buddha nature becomes more manifest as well.
And we have another question, Lama, if you're ready.
Sure.
How should we best be doing deity practice prior to receiving teachings or empowerments for specific Yidam practices?
Well, there are the sutra practices such as Tara, such as Medicine Buddha, such as Chenrezig, and it's not essential that one has the empowerment. It gives a special blessing. But if you have, as you have had, empowerments there, most recently with Khenpo Ujin, who did the Medicine Buddha. So those of you who did that have the blessing. Usually we say to do a practice, you need the empowerment, you need the lung or the reading transmission, and you need the instruction. So of course, those three things are optimal. But in the sutra practices, having the reading transmission can suffice. But of course, you need the instruction on how to do it. And you need someone who knows the territory to be able to advise you. And that is, that's the teacher.
And then what about in group practice? Let's say for folks that are attending Chenrezig or Medicine Buddha, but have yet to receive those empowerments, how should they approach the practice when they're doing it with a group?
With as much devotion and awareness as they can. And again, don't feel like you're being limited in order to do that. It is not essential that you have, again, for the practices that you do there, it is not essential that you have them, but it's important that you understand the text and you understand the practice and what you're saying and doing, and your visualization is clear. And you don't have to have the empowerment to do that. You just need to be able to give yourself over to the practice and visualize to the best of your ability in the creation stage of that, the deity and all of the implements the deity holds, and recitation of the mantra. And then, we have those two things that the creation stage of the practice, which is basically shamatha, and the completion stage, which is vipassana, where we rest the mind naturally in its Buddha's nature. And we try to continue that to extend that samadhi for extended periods of time. And you can do that, without a deity practice, to rest the mind in its natural state. But usually we are overcome with thoughts and feelings and emotions, which distort the experience and take us away from the direct experience of the nature of our mind. It's a distraction. So we're trying to remove that distraction. And the more we practice, it's like anything else. Whatever it is you're doing, whether you're a musician or an artist or whatever, you generally don't perform those things without a great deal, years of practice, So the taming the mind and doing these practices are no different than that. It takes practice and discipline and all of the other qualities. That's why we say Nundro is important. That's why we say these practices help lead. We have been here since beginningless time, and we haven't quite got it down yet. But we are so fortunate to have encountered the Dharma, to be able to hear this, and to actually have the capacity to do these practices. But it doesn't help to just hear it. You have to really do it to get the result. To want to be a concert pianist, it doesn't happen because you want it, by itself. You have to practice. You have to practice a lot. And this is no different. You have to practice a lot.
Go ahead, Bob.
We have to abandon those kleshas.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
That's okay. I was just saying we have to abandon those kleshas to make that happen. And the graduated path that we're talking about is the means to do that.
Okay.
Yes, so there's another question.
Yeah, and I ask this question with great respect and admiration for the Kaju lineage. I have come to appreciate it and to know it much, much more. And I'm very happy to be here and I'm very happy to be welcomed here. So I have a simple question and it may require a simple answer, but I've noticed that there's very little English language used in the sutra practices. As a matter of fact, it seems to me that they're all exclusively Tibetan. And I'm wondering,
Okay, wait, go ahead. Yeah.
and I'm wondering why that is. The Nyingma lineage that I come from is using more and more English now. And I get the impression that the Kaju is not. And I'm just wondering why that is.
Well, the
And
Buddha, yes.
I hope you don't take this as any criticism because it isn't at all. But it's just a point of curiosity for me.
Well, it's important that we understand the practice, and it's important that we understand the words. And I probably do more practices, or Yidam practices as well in English. And we do have the pages, or the practice is translated into English, and it is fine to do the practices in English as well.
Mhm.
And you can talk to somebody there who will direct you. You're reading a text now on Tara that is in English. And so there are many different texts that are in English because we are English-speaking people. And the Buddha said you should teach in the language of the person you're talking with. You'll be a Buddha before you become Tibetan. You will not be Tibetan in this lifetime, that is for sure. You can be Buddha if you're like Milarepa and practice in that way. You can establish, and that is the essence of the Vajrayana, is that in this lifetime, you can actually have the direct experience of the nature of your mind. And I happen to agree with you that it is important to understand what we're doing and to do it in the English, or at least understand the process in English.
Thank you for the answer.
Yes.
I have a question, Lama. So I just want to tell you what I heard in like really plain language, and please let me know if I'm hearing you correctly. So the practices are like a shower for your mind, body, speech, and mind. And in order to do them in the right way, you need to be instructed on how to shower. So you get all the parts in the right order so that you're cleaning things in the right order. And then that way, as you get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, then you can see the veils are gone, everything's just clean. And then you can see the three vajras. And the nature of your mind is not the monkey mind running around, although that's important to observe too. But that emptiness, the stillness that you were talking about, is that a really simplified English way of saying what you said?
That is a simplified way of saying it, yes. We have to purify those negative emotions. But not only that, we have to also cultivate the virtues that go with that as well. So it's two things. You know, we say that wisdom and compassion are the two wings of the bird. So what is wisdom? Wisdom is the proper understanding of emptiness, and the compassion is the other important aspect in the Mahayana and in the Vajrayana as well, which is an extension of the Mahayana. But it is a skillful means. The practices in the Vajrayana are different than in the Mahayana. So we have to perfect both those things, our compassion, our loving kindness, and wisdom, you know, the understanding of emptiness. So those things will dawn on us as we remove the obscuration. So your idea of the shower is fine for the elimination of the obstacles, the obscurations. And what's underneath that is our pure Buddha nature. It's always been shining since beginningless time. There's nothing you can do to distort it, but we can confuse it. We often use the image of clouds, obstructing the sun. The sun is always there, but we have these obscurations, like clouds in a spacious sky, which the sun is still shining, but we might not be able to see it because of the obscurations, our wrong understanding.
And with the deity aspect of it, I'm going to use a different example because I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So when I use a word, like if I need my cat to be more gentle, I'll ask him to be gentle, and he will. So I'm calling the gentleness forward from him, what's already inside. So when we're doing deity practice, if we were to say the different names of the different deities, it's like we're calling Tara out from us, or we're calling Medicine Buddha out from us instead of the veils.
Yes, we're being reminded of who we really are. So when you're doing that practice, whether it's Tara or Chenrezig or Medicine Buddha, you visualize yourself as that. And that's what makes Vajrayana so powerful. You are transforming your identification with this self, this egoistic, character that is just the five elements in a particular kind of way. But we think that this is who we are, which is not true. You are more like the deity practice that you're doing, whether it's Medicine Buddha or Taro or Chenrezig or the many different deities that are there, but they're all the same. They're in a way that they are all you. They're all part of your own Buddha nature. One deity is not better than another. So when you do any practice, you can do one practice and gain the benefit of all. Any one of those deity practice will give you all of those blessings that you want and that are already within you. So you're becoming that. You have to, we call it, the divine pride, of the deity. So we usually, again, don't think of pride as being a good thing, but you have to realize that you are the deity when you're doing that practice. It's not that it's outside of you. We may visualize something outside of us, but as we do it, it dissolves into us like water into water, and we become that deity. And that is the potency, the power of that Vajra-like adamantine state of realization.
And I was hearing you talk about non-dual and dual and emptiness. So if I were to simplify it, if I'm not resting in emptiness, whatever else that is some sort of obscuration, some sort of distraction, some sort of something else.
Duality in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm not resting in that pure awareness of emptiness, something's going on and it needs to be cleaned.
Correct. That is the first bodhisattva level, the joyous. And that's the first recognition of emptiness. You can remain in that. And that continues as one progresses along the 10 levels of a bodhisattva to ultimate Buddhahood. But each of those levels has a particular kind of obscuration, or we wouldn't be traveling this path to Buddhahood. And so gradually, onion peel layer by onion peel layer, we are removing those obstacles and obscurations until Buddhahood is achieved. And every bodhisattva does that.
Thank you.
So that's how the path clears the veils. And we've talked about, I think you're clear on the first veil of afflictive emotions And the second veil of the subtle and the harder to catch yourself in the veil of cognitive obscurations, because it can be very subtle. But it is a divergence from your Buddha nature to some attachment clinging to some aspect. And everyone's different, because of causes and conditions. We all have kind of a different path and different obscurations that are more deeply ingrained. But whatever it is, it comes to the same obstacle that needs to be purified.
Lama, in reading the Amrita of Eloquence, we're in the section where Kempo Khalcha Rinpoche is talking about how they put Karmi Ling together and everything that had to occur for that to happen. September 1st is when the pre-retreat starts this year.
Right?
And a wonderful student today asked me, why would someone want to go to retreat? And I said, well, everybody's mind is different, so there are different reasons. But could you speak on retreat as far as from your personal experience?
Well, we said that it is important to remove the obstacles, and it takes time and effort and diligence and perseverance. So it just is a matter of what's important to you. That's why people do retreat. And that's why people take vows, so that they can devote themselves to the practice as diligently as they can, as quickly as they can, because, we say that this life is short. We don't know how much time we have. And so we do retreat because we want to take the opportunity of spending 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, etc., in doing the practice. And one who does retreat has come to that realization that we don't have time to spare. And until you have that renunciation for samsara, you'll just continue doing what you're doing. And continue in samsara. Knowing the truth is one thing, acting on the truth is another. So those of you who are there are sitting in the chair that you're in. Obviously, you think that it is important enough to hear the Dharma, which is important. So we hear the Dharma, we contemplate the Dharma, we practice it to the best of our ability in whatever our situation is. But we go on retreat because there's so many distractions in day-to-day life, as a householder or working or all the different things that distract us and pull us here, there, and the next place. So the person going into retreat is saying, okay, I'm going to divorce myself from samsaric life for a while and engage in the activity of a bodhisattva and practice diligently. So you have to have developed a certain renunciation for samsaric life. And again, that is one of the aspects of the four thoughts that turn the mind. We said that there is the preciousness of this birth. So what are we going to do with it? There is the aspect of karma. Everything that we think, what's going through your mind right now will lead to some action or some activity towards enlightenment or away from it. We don't really have a word for sin in the Tibetan, but anything that takes you away from your Buddha nature, we could say is unskillful. And anything that brings you closer to your Buddha nature, like the practices that we're talking about, is going to lead ultimately to Buddhahood. Because that's who you are. You are a Buddha right now. But we don't realize it, we don't believe it, we don't think we can do it, and that's for someone else. And if that's your idea, then it's going to be slow going. But that's why we talk about Vajra pride. I'm a Buddha. I'm going to realize my Buddha nature. And that's what the Buddha did under the Bodhi tree. He said, I'm going to sit here until I reach enlightenment or I die. That's pretty intense, but that was his motivation. That was his aspiration, and that's what he achieved. And he showed us that that can be done. He was the guide. But we do need a teacher to help guide us on the path. And the good news is that you have entered the path. For those of you who have taken refuge, that is the first coming on the path, and it grants you fearlessness, it is said, taking refuge. And what are you fearless about? You're fearless about purifying yourself to the point of realization. And you do that with great intention, with great aspiration. And that has to be cultivated. And we said this precious human birth and impermanence is the second. So we don't know how long we have. We think we're going to go on for years and years, but you probably know people who have died unexpectedly or in accidents or a variety of things, and they may have said the same thing, no, I'll do it later. But later never comes. So impermanence, these are the four thoughts. And I probably talk about the four thoughts every time I speak because they are important to realize that this is a precious human birth. It's precious if we use it. I mean, how many people actually hear the Dharma for one thing, and how many people practice it for another thing. I mean, the two things about practice is not starting and the other was not finishing. So you may have started and then many people come to the center and then they seem to disappear and they don't continue the practice. That leads nowhere. Or you can continue until the goal is reached. So we have to start and we have to finish. So we have this precious human birth. And again, it's only precious if we use it as such. And impermanence strikes, it is, we just don't know. We have the capacity now, we have the mind to be able to understand it. We have a physical form that's capable of doing it. We have all of the resources. And you may not think you have leisure time to practice, but actually you do. There's a lot of things that you do to waste time. So we have to use the time that we have in the most auspicious way. And so I mentioned karma, and either we practice or we don't. Either we act virtuous or we don't. And that is our choice. That is the only choice we have. We can't do much else in the world. I mean, we see a lot of suffering in the world and we can't end it, but it is the aspiration from a relative bodhicitta point of view that we wish to end suffering for all sentient beings. And that is the vow that is taken. Until enlightenment is reached, I wish to benefit of all sentient beings. And that is important to the reaching of enlightenment, is to have that aspiration. And the fourth is the unsatisfactoriness of living a life that is filled with our obscurations, and we never see reality as it is. We don't see reality as it is. We see reality as we are. And until we purify those kleshas that obscure the reality of what is real and our Buddha nature, we will misperceive the nature of reality and the dreamlike quality of our existence. So the unsatisfactory of samsara has to be understood. So we contemplate those four thoughts, and then we take action. It's our choice. No one can do this for us. So the good news is you have a center and you have been connected to a lineage that we've had many wonderful teachers who have attained that level themselves and have shown us how to do it. So it's not it's doable. for those who set their mind to it. And if you think otherwise, that's an obstacle. That would be a cognitive obstacle. Not realizing your Buddha nature. So we do these this path, this Mahamudra path, with that in mind. So all these things are called preliminaries, and they are important to the realization. You know, this is exactly why our lineage teaching on preliminaries never treats Nindro as separate from realization. Something merely preparatory that has to be finished before the real practice begins. This is all part of practice. Every prostration is already Vajrabhati if you have that intention. So every time you do a prostration, you can realize that this is your Vajra body that is performing that action. And when you repeat the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva, when we do the purification exercise, that is that's already Vajra speech being rehearsed. So we're putting ourselves in that situation. We're not producing purity out of nothing. We have a Buddha nature. That is the important teaching of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma that the Buddha taught in the Vajrayana. Any questions?
I do. So you mentioned for cognitive obscurities that mantra was the way to help settle the monkey mind, but what about a remedy for emotional afflictiveness? You mentioned one for anger. Would there be like a different practice for anger than if it's for, I don't know, jealousy?
No, basically, we have to do it with our mind. And in so doing, the recognition of emptiness, all those thoughts are empty of any lasting thing. It is very ephemeral. Anything that we can think, it is, it's like all those things are obscurations. So we have to have the right view. That is the most important, is that you have Buddha nature and that these practices remove that obscuration by understanding emptiness. That is the mind part of it. We have to have the direct experience of our Buddha nature, which is empty of any kind of identification or duality. We see things as perfect. This is a pure realm. This is Shakyamuni's pure realm, and it is perfect, but we don't see it that way. And that is part of the practice. When you're doing the creation stage, you're creating a pure perception, and that is an important part of the practice, the mental part of pure perception. And each of those distortions, whatever the emotional obscuration is just an aspect of a deluded mind. So they're all the same. I often use the example of if you're in a bamboo grove, you don't have to chop all of the bamboo to realize, oh, it's hollow inside, it's empty. In the way we can use that analogy for our mind, it is empty. Those things that bubble up are empty of any essential quality. Having the right view, that is the first of the Noble Eightfold Path, is right view. So the Buddha's first teaching, after his enlightenment, was the Four Noble Truths. And that is the foundation of all of Buddhism. That there is suffering, that there's a cause of that suffering, there's a remedy to that suffering, and that is following the Noble Eightfold Path. Along with these other practices that we've been talking about, are ways to have that right action, right motivation, right meditation. So we have to study, we have to practice, and we need a teacher.
Lama, we have another question when you're ready.
Sure.
What would you recommend to someone who feels disconnected from the path?
It takes merit, for one thing. That's why we do the Nindro practice. We start with prostrations, to generate that kind of devotion and purification with the Vajrasattva, and gaining merit through mandala practice and yoking the mind with the Guru, and the fourth, Guru Yoga. So that's why we do these practices. That's how most people start. They don't really understand the process. They don't understand the nature of their mind, and they don't believe they can do it. So why should I? And that stops them in their tracks. Those are kleshas. That idea is a cognitive obscuration. That's one of the things we're uprooting. It's wrong view.
I have a comment, kind of add to this a little bit, and it's kind of a question as well, just to make sure I'm on the right track. When, this person asked about being, feeling disconnected from the path, it made me think of, how, whatever we do, there's this emphasis on the dedication and merit.
Mhm.
And for me, even, whatever else I have going on in my mind, even if I just do, 10 minutes of meditation, I always try to remember to do the dedication of merit. It reconnects me to the reason
Excellent.
this in the first place is I do want to, I want to do something that helps others, that helps, not just for me, but, for everybody. And
That's
so
right.
that
That's what you
helps
want to
kind of
cultivate.
focus me.
Yeah. Yeah, and we always do that. We at the end of your practice, you always dedicate the merit for the benefit of all beings. Twofold benefit. It's going to benefit you too, no doubt. And the only way we can be of benefit to someone is to actually actualize our highest understanding, our highest wisdom, our prajna. And so with that, we dedicate the merit to all suffering beings out of our compassion, because they are suffering because they don't understand what they're doing. How they're creating suffering for themselves. And that's the thing that motivates the bodhisattva, is that they see beings who, out of ignorance, are creating more suffering for themselves and are just getting further and further away from their Buddha nature. So we want to really, they can't help but have compassion for the suffering that is going to entail. So we dedicate the merit to their well-being and their ultimate enlightenment. And we act in the world in that way, cultivating our own virtue to be able to see clearly, but also wanting other beings to have that same quality, to be able to use this precious life in a way that's going to be a benefit to them and end their suffering ultimately. The Buddha said he was here for one reason and one reason only, and that was to end suffering. But no one can do it for us. So we have to have the right view of how to do that.
Lama, would contemplating or practicing the six perfections be another way to generate merit?
Absolutely, that's how the Buddhas do it. I mean, that's the Bodhisattva path. That's how Bodhisattvas become Buddhas, is by perfect virtuous activity. Cultivating that perfection, those paramitas, the perfection, those virtues. That's how it's done. That's the path of the Bodhisattva.
Mama, maybe if you would, could you talk a little bit about what is merit? The term we use all the time.
Well, it's the things we're talking about. It is cultivating that wish to benefit others. That is very meritorious. So when we say we're dedicating the merit of our activity, we're putting ourselves in a situation where we're our activity is beneficial, and we're dedicating that activity for the twofold benefit of our own awakening and for that of all beings. That's merit. That is meritorious, and in so doing, that propels us. It's like fuel. It's like jet fuel, And we say that the Vajra path is the jet to awakening. It doesn't take eons, as in the Mahayana tradition. It can happen in this very life, and that is the jet fuel that makes that happen.
So, Lama, is that when we do good things, but we don't hold on to the good things? Is that a good way to define the merit?
Yeah, we're giving it away. I mean, we can give away all the merit and not lose a thing. In fact, it is the way that the Bodhisattva attains Buddhahood. It is by dedicating the merit and working for the benefit of all suffering beings. So yes, we give it away. We're not attached to it. We're working to benefit others, and we wish to give it to them. So, like Tonglen was mentioned by Jamso as a vehicle for cultivating bodhicitta. And so we want to see the person in there as fully enlightened. When we do Tonglen, we want to take away their suffering and their confusion and their illness, whether it's body, mind, or spirit. And we want to give them our merit in that way. And we want to see them as completely enlightened Buddhas, which they are. And in so doing, we benefit both ourselves and them in doing it. And you can't attain Buddhahood without that. So there are different levels, of motivation. And this Mahayana motivation, the Bodhisattva path, is about cultivating that merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. That is a difference between the Hinayana path, or the Shravakayana, or the Pratyeka Buddha, who wish to escape samsara and attain nirvana for their own benefit, to escape suffering. And they're very diligent in doing that. And yes, they can avoid the samsaric suffering, but they haven't attained Buddhahood until they develop the compassion of a bodhisattva. And that is the secret sauce to enlightenment. And until a Buddha taps them on the shoulder and says, "You're not quite there yet. We need to develop compassion and loving kindness for the benefit of all beings." That is the ultimate merit that will take them to the goal of enlightenment.
Lama, if we don't do that, if we do good things and we hold on to that, my thought is that we are making more attachment to the self at that point, correct?
It depends on your motivation. Yeah, we can do good things, but what is our motivation in doing it? Is it to benefit others, or is it to get recognition or credit or money, or what is the motivation of our so-called goodness? If it is not for the benefit of all sentient beings, then it is you could be born in a God realm, but it's still samsaric. So the different realms have different predispositions. We say this is the desire realm, and we have one desire after another. And the God realms are about pride, and they may be doing good things because of the credit they get for it and how they appear in the eyes of others, and they're doing it out of pride and recognition. That is not the highest motivation. And that will lead to still a samsaric rebirth. It may be in a God realm, which is pleasant for a long time. They're long lived and they have much happiness until the end comes, and they see that, oh, I'm not going to be here forever. And there are signs that they are deteriorating, and they're going to have visions of their next rebirth, which is generally they've exhausted their good karma and they're going to fall to lower realms. Each of the samsaric realms are painful. Even the God realms are ultimately painful.
When we dedicate merit, a lot of times we'll do the practice. I dedicate this merit for the practice I just did. But a lot of times with particularly our wonderful board of directors, you'll hear saying, I'm dedicating the merit of your practice. It's not just about the merit of my practice that I'm dedicating. It's when somebody else does something really cool, really good for the center. I'm dedicating your merit.
Sure, we can do that. Everyone's merit, past, present, and future. When we do Nundro and we're doing our Nundro practice, if you remember the lineage tree, and we are doing this practice for the benefit of all beings, and we dedicate the merit. We want all beings. We see all beings doing this practice of prostrations or whatever it is we're doing. We all sentient beings are doing this practice with us, and we dedicate that merit, for their benefit and the benefit of all suffering beings. So yes, that's perfectly okay to do. As vast as you can make it. We're only limited by our own imagination in that way. We want to have that kind of idea. May all benefit, from this practice. And we appreciate the qualities that other people do that are beneficial, and hopefully they're thinking the same way. But yes, you can dedicate the merit like that. Make it as vast as you can. Okay, how we doing?
I think we're almost to the point of dedicating the merit.
Yeah, we're getting there. I'm always amazed how fast this time goes by.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So a couple of the words from Medicine Buddha,
Yes.
Jana Sattva and Samaya Sattva dissolve into me. So when I'm saying that, what am I asking for to be dissolved into me?
The Samaya Sattva is the creation that we're visualizing. The Jhana Sattva is the actual Buddha. And both of those things we are dissolving into ourselves. Our self-created variety and the actual Buddha.
Wonderful, thanks.
So you're visualizing the Buddha. That is your visualization that you're creating. But then we have the Buddha who is there, and we have to really feel like the medicine Buddha is there, and all of his brothers are there with you, the seven Buddha brothers. And if you did that training with Khenpo Ujin, hopefully that was discussed, and you have a good feeling for that practice. But the more you do it, the more you experience it, the better. So if you can do that, there's certainly at least once a month, there are times where it's Medicine Buddha Day, just like Tara Day, or the different times where we do those practices. Make it your own, and if you want to do that practice in the English sometimes, so you understand the words and the sequencing, that is fine.
Thank you.
There was a question in the chat from Zach. He said, little off topic. I sent you an email a few months ago, Lama. I was wondering if you ever got it.
Oh, I don't remember. If I did respond to it, I may not have, because I usually respond fairly quickly to.
Zach, if you can send me, if you want to CC me the email, or I can try and coordinate. Try resending it to Lama first. I'll make sure you have his right address.
Yeah, I think we've communicated in the past, so
Okay,
I think
great.
he has the right email. But boy, I have so many emails. I have 8,000 emails that I haven't even opened, if you can imagine that. So it's a little overwhelming. I don't have the time sometimes, but if I see one that I recognize, I usually will go for that, particularly with my students. Yeah. All right, so I guess it is that time that we dedicate the merit. Are there any final questions, any burning questions?
Zach said, is there a better way to contact you?
Text or email is fine. Yeah,
Zach, I'll send you his information.
that's usually the best way to do it. All right. So if there's no more questions, I guess this is the segue to dedicating the merit. So we'll dedicate this merit for the benefit of all sentient beings and their ultimate enlightenment. May all sentient beings be happy. May the lower realms be forever empty. May the prayers of all bodhisattvas abiding in any of the levels be fulfilled. May warfare, sickness, and famine be pacified. Victorious over the four Maras and the activity of all the Buddhas, Karmapa, may your teachings, this heart of the Dharma, fill and pervade all directions without ceasing, continuously increasing and auspiciously ever flourish. May it bring good fortune, happiness, and peace. May pure conduct, merit, wealth, and prosperity increase. And may supreme good fortune, health, well-being, compassion, and loving kindness always arise in the minds of living beings. May this dedication be fulfilled in the most auspicious way. We dedicate all this merit. I thank you all very much for your time and your practice. And hopefully I'll see you next month.
Thank you so much, Lama Losang. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. All the folks online, everyone in person. It's wonderful to see such a full shrine room on a Tuesday night. So thank you all for participating. We'll be here Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for meditation. We have our book study at 10 a.m. and then Chenrezig and Amitabha on this Saturday. And of course, Lama Karma will be visiting in October, but I believe he is going to be visiting Gainesville KTC in August. So
That's
another
right.
opportunity to see Lama Karma and his step. What do you know what he's teaching on, Lama?
Yes, he's teaching on Chenrezig. We'll probably do a Chenrezig empowerment and the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum discussion and teaching on the importance of that mantra. It is vast. It's its qualities. So that would be very good. And if you want the empowerment of Chenrezig, it will be given.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lama. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Touch it,